Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hello, my name is Dr.
Let's go ahead and get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
Deadpoolzilla, the Don Juan of Comic-Con himself.
Yay! And we are continuing our character discussions. Deadpoolzilla, who are we discussing today?
Well, first, riddle me this. I'm not going to do that. We're talking about the Riddler.
Aw. Like,
you got
what were you possibly going? What were you possibly going to say that the people watching the video wouldn't know the answer to?
Well, the thing is like you've already got his name in the goddamn title.
I mean, I suppose I could have like put a Geeky Gentleman question mark in the thumb, and then like they click on it and then they don't know it until like I could change it like a week later or something.
No, we're talking about the Riddler. And yeah, Ian, you chose this character, and I'm curious as to why.
The Riddler's probably one of the most underrated Batman villains, in my humble opinion, which is of course always right. And God, he's such a cool idea for a character, and he's one of those characters who only a handful of people... this is going to sound arrogant, but we're talking about the Riddler, so it's appropriate. I think only a handful of people know how to write the Riddler, and I feel like a lot of other people write the Riddler because it feels obligatory to write the Riddler. And maybe that's unfair. Maybe I just have a very particular version of the Riddler I like to read, and other people have a very particular version of the Riddler they like to write. But I don't know. Riddler's a character who is wildly inconsistent in the comics, who has never been done in an impressive manner outside of comics.
Well, I get
there's a couple things here and there that are okay, but nothing really impresses.
Yeah. That's been my thing. Like, I like the Riddler, and I get happy when he shows up, but I'm not Riddler is not on my top 10 Batman list, a favorite Batman villain list.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've always, there are, like you, Ian, there are versions of Riddler I like, and there are stories I like, but it's never been like Riddler has struck out to me like, oh, yeah, the Riddler. It's just kind of like, he's one of those characters where I'm just like, oh, he's there, that's nice.
Yeah, and like he's got his moments in other media. I reasonably enjoy his appearance in The Batman. I thought that was probably the best he's ever been done.
I don't know
outside of the comics.
I don't know if I like the Marilyn Manson look.
It's a distinct look, different than anything else he's ever been given. I'll say that much. But yeah, there's. God, how weird would it be if Marilyn Manson played the Riddler? Anyway, there's just a lot of stuff with the Riddler where I think he's kind of an underrated Batman villain. He's a really cool character. I will say this, though. He has more good stories than Two-Face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that, and we're probably gonna delve more into this, is that what I like about Riddler as a Batman villain is that, much like with a lot of other Batman villains, is that they're all a portrayal of certain aspects of Bruce Wayne's mind, is that Riddler is Batman's intellect gone unchecked.
Yep.
That's the best way to look at it, is that Riddler represents what Batman's intellect could do if he just went right off the goddamn rails.
Mm-hmm. Yep, like Joker, like I feel like so many villains, especially the human villains in comics, are super geniuses out of necessity, but Riddler's, like, his whole shtick is that he's a super genius. I'm infamous for not liking Scott Snyder, and his Batman run.
I'm right there.
I will give the caveat that Scott Snyder knows how to write the Riddler.
Yeah, like that's my thing. Is like I'm not the biggest Snyder guy either, but I really dug his Riddler.
Yeah, 0 Year Riddler's written pretty damn well. For me, the best Scott Snyder Riddler moment though is in Death of the Family. I think it's not even like in the book itself. I think it's just one of like the lead up or like backup issue kind of stories where you see Joker getting the villains together. And he, like, Riddler doesn't want anything to do with him, and he's just locked in his cell, and Joker just throws a canister of poison gas into the cell, and Riddler has to get out in a matter of seconds. And he's like, there's only 2 ways to do it, given the circumstances you gave me. So yeah, thanks for that. Now I guess I'm involved. And that was a really, really good Riddler moment, where the thing people forget to do with the Riddler is you have to have riddles involved. He's not the puzzler, he's not the clue master, he is the Riddler. It has to involve riddles. But the thing I like about that scene in particular is it was a way to show his intellect without having to do the riddle thing, because it's just him having to survive on his wits. And that's why I thought that was a pretty good moment.
Now, did you read the Forever Evil tie-in with him?
Yes, because I remember it had the lithographic cover. I remember nothing about it.
Well, I thought it was trying to
besides the lithographic cover.
Well, the whole thing was that Riddler broke into Bruce Wayne's manor, and he's giving this riddle. Like his whole monologue is a riddle to himself, which I thought was really cool. There was also that one shot from Joker's Asylum.
Joker's Asylum.
Yeah.
That was a weird one, and I wish it took off in a better way, because I've still never heard a really good theory on who the villain of that book is. Because like that was a really interesting and experimental thing wherein they tell a story and there's a bad guy in the story, but you don't know who it is, and there are clues in the story to reveal who it is. But like I just never heard a really strong take on it, and it's been so long since I've read it, I can't give you who I thought it was off the top of my head. But like that was a really cool idea to do with a Riddler story.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really plays into Riddler's egotism in that, you know, he just wanted this girl on the sake of, I just wanted to solve another. It was just another matter of, I wanted to solve this riddle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a cool aspect to it. Riddler's got this inconsistent way in which he's portrayed in comics, though, and so I'm curious what you think about it, because I feel both are equally valid at this point, because there's just as much content to support either of them. So you have Riddler, who is legitimately a super genius and is very suave and kind of debonair and a little full of himself. Or a lot full of himself, honestly. But honestly, he's got the chops to back it up. And then there's the version of the Riddler who thinks he's all those things, but doesn't actually have the chops to back it up, and is pathetic, but doesn't want to admit that to himself.
You know, it's kind of funny that I think I like when he's you see, there are stories where he's like legitimately smart and intelligent, but on the other hand, he's so pathetic he just won't admit it, and they're really good stories. I'm torn.
I don't like any of the he's pathetic stories. Outside of Neil Gaiman's When is a Door Not a Door? I believe that's the name of the Neil Gaiman story. Just Like, that's the only time that voice for the Riddler ever worked for me.
Well, I can see it, like, there's only one or two that come to mind when he's like, he's pathetic, but he doesn't want to realize it to himself. But I am with you that I do like it when he's legitimately smart, because it's like, well, what would be the point of the Riddler if he wasn't, you know, a intellectual challenge for Batman, if he was just kind of a loser? What would be the point?
Yeah, that's my thing, is, like, I just don't like it when the Riddler... generally speaking with villains, I don't like it when they don't buy what they're selling, and I also don't like it when they don't actually feel like a threat. Because, end of the day, if Batman doesn't catch the Riddler and it still doesn't matter, then why the fuck did I bother with the story, right? If the Riddler is just pathetic and he would have screwed it up somehow anyway, why did I bother with the story if Batman didn't really need to stop him? So I like when the Riddler is a legitimate threat. And again, I'll give Snyder some credit. 0 Year put him as a legitimate threat. Tom King did it so much better, though, with War of Jokes and Riddles. Oh my god, it's so much better there.
Because people complain like, oh, the whole point was the Riddler just wanted to see Joker laugh. I'm like, that's kind of his thing. Like, he's so OCD about certain things, he would turn Gotham into a slaughterhouse just to see the Joker laugh.
Yeah, I mean, the Joker presented himself with a contradiction, with a conundrum, and Riddler thought he had it solved. And it was just so cool that he was right, but he was wrong. Like, the whole situation goes tits up for Riddler, and he designs it for himself to go tits up, because he's so sure he's right that he doesn't even care about what happens to him. He's so sure he's right that he's willing to let himself be defeated by Kite Man, and when Joker still doesn't laugh, he's angrier than hell, and then it takes the thing that would actually make Joker laugh, which is, of course, it can't be about the Riddler, it has to be about Batman. And that was what made that really interesting. Is that, like, ultimately the Riddler's right, misery will make the Joker laugh, failure will make the Joker laugh. It's just he's so obsessed with himself that he thinks if he can fail in the Joker's eyes, then he'll be right and make the Joker laugh. And what it all comes down to is, who cares about the Riddler? Joker doesn't give a shit if the Riddler gets defeated. What he cares about is Batman's defeated in the War of Jokes and Riddles. And that's really interesting.
Yeah. And that's what I've liked about Riddler, is that he can be that level of OCD and it works for him. Where he will have to be the smartest guy in the room. I think that Riddler works best is when he gets so obsessive compulsive that he kind of cracks under his own pressure.
That can work. For me, I really like the Holmes Moriarty approach. I love the idea of, you know, like, Joker gets to win from time to time, right? Like, it's few and far between, but we let Joker win from time to time. And that's important. That shows a level of equalness. It shows that they're playing on a level field. And so you need to give that every so often. Like, Batman can save the day, but there needs to be some kind of loss. And stories that have the Riddler win on some field, and on ultimately the more important field as far as Batman's concerned, are really worthwhile. Which is why I want to talk about Hush. Everyone pretty much agrees Hush was a fad, it was a cool marketing thing, and ultimately it doesn't hold up at all, right?
Right.
I still agree with that. That ending scene where it was all revealed it was the Riddler's plan all along, that's still a really good scene.
Yeah, it's a really...
That is a nugget of gold in a turd.
It is a great scene of, like, it was all his game. And the whole thing of between Batman and Joker is that, oh, I know you're Bruce Wayne, and Batman just responds with, yeah, but if you tell everyone, then everyone will know, and it won't be a riddle you alone can have the answer to. So,
Yep, that was the best part about it. You said Joker, by the way, but yeah.
Sorry, it's late.
No, that's cool. Yeah, that was the best thing about it. It's like, and I love that it was written and proposed as a riddle. And he's like, I've got a riddle for you, Eddie. Oh, really? What is it? What time is it when an elephant sits on your fence? That's such an easy one. Every grade schooler knows that. It's time to get a new fence. And he goes, exactly. Everyone knows it. Just like if you tell anyone my identity, everyone will know it. God, that was such a good fucking move. Like, you could tell Loeb had that scene written, and then he needed to structure a story around it.
Yeah.
Is what I think it came down to.
He ran up to Jim Lee going, hey, I got a great Riddler story. You do? Yeah, but I need your help. Okay? See, there's this guy with bandages on his face, and fuck it, we'll write it as we go along.
Yeah.
That's how it went.
Yeah, I will say, I still do like people say it's obvious that Hush is going to be Thomas Elliot and yada yada yada. I do still really like the misdirection with Riddler, because Loeb had done it once before. I can't remember if it happens in Dark Victory, but he sets Riddler up as this big thing for a whole issue, and then at the end, Riddler is just kind of pathetic and doesn't mean anything to Long Halloween. And then he kind of does the same thing in Hush at first. Like, Riddler has an issue in Hush, and it just looks like Loeb doing his thing and kind of throwing some shade at Riddler as being kind of worthless, kind of pathetic. And then it all comes together in the end as Riddler's evil plan, and that was a really cool idea. I want to talk about some good Riddler stories, though, that aren't good in spite of themselves. Riddle Me That, Legends of the Dark Knight 185 to 189 is hands down the best Riddler story ever told, and it is a crime against humanity that has never been collected for people to read.
Yeah, I've never been able to read that, so I can't really attest to that.
It's so unbelievably good. They do a whole relaunch of the character, give him a new design.
This had like the green. That's how he got the green tuxedo, right?
No. They lose almost all of the green. At one point, he wears a green shirt. That's it, like a green dress shirt. What they give him is question mark tattoos all over his body. He wears black suit with a green dress shirt underneath it, and he is just fucking brilliant. And there's so many good scenes in that. There's a moment where he's talking to Batman and he's giving him like the whole rundown of everything that's going on, and they're just kind of standing in a warehouse, and Batman's like circling him, like doing his like kind of moving shadow kind of thing, circling him, and then Batman just comes like right up behind him and passes his arm through him, because the whole time you realize that Batman's been talking to a hologram. And Riddler looks at him and goes, "How'd you know?" And Batman says, "You have no scent. You are worth every penny." It's just, it's such a good little, like, cat and mouse mind game shit, and I love it to death. I will always, always recommend Riddle Me That. It is, again, hands down the best Riddler story, and I don't want to talk about it too much, besides just saying that it's a really, really strong take and relaunch for the character, and you honestly could have just adapted into a film. It could have been the next Nolan Batman. That was the thing I was arguing to happen before we even got confirmation that there was going to be a sequel to Dark Knight. Is they should just adapt that story. It's a cool action thing. There's fights, there's drama, there's explosions. It's all just a mental game. The only thing I can really think to compare it to is Game of Shadows, Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. That is the level to which it is. Like, It's all this fucking mind game, cat and mouse shit, but meanwhile there's fucking explosions and fist fights and all this craziness going on. So that it is a great story though.
Neat. I'm gonna have to try to. I can't find it collected, but
yeah, Legends of the Dark Knight number 185 to 189. That's the issue numbers, and honestly, I'd say go hunt down the issues, and that's what you should probably do. It's DC's fault that they have never collected it. That's one, pirate it. If you have to, pirate it, because it's worth reading. It's funny because there was that story, and then there's one issue of Green Arrow with the same version of the Riddler, and then they just forgot that they did this whole relaunch to the character. It's ridiculous. And the Green Arrow issue is pretty good. There's a prologue to it. Let's see here. In War Games, in the War Games saga, I want to say it's the 3 issues of Detective Comics that tie into War Games. There's a backup story called Low, L-O-W, where it's taking place after Heart of Hush, which is garbage. And Riddler runs.
Whoa!
Heart of Hush? No, Return of Hush. My bad.
Yeah, I was about to say we're going to fight because that's a good story.
No, Return of Hush is what sucks. Sorry.
Oh yeah, Return of Hush sucks.
Anyway, so that one takes place after Return of Hush, and Riddler's on the run, and he runs to Poison Ivy to try to protect him or whatever, and Poison Ivy basically kills him. She beats the shit out of him, but she demoralizes the fuck out of him and says that it's a great little meta thing because it addresses the idea that the Riddler is pathetic, that he isn't a true Batman Rogues Gallery member kind of thing, that he isn't scary or anything. And so Poison Ivy just fucking fucks his self-esteem. Just destroys his self-esteem. And it's a really interesting thing because she gets him to admit that he's pathetic. And then he goes, "Now fucking you're right, just do it, just fucking kill me." And she looks at him and goes, "I have," and just walks away. And that's the prologue to Riddle Me That. And again, it's a fucking crime against humanity that this story is not collected. So yeah, find the issues of Detective Comics that have the Low story in the backup, and then read the Riddle Me That arc and the issue of Green Arrow. I want to say it's number 50 that has that version of the Riddler come back. Best Riddler stuff you'll ever find.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so good, and they've never collected it. It's disappointing as fuck.
So let me ask you this: how do you feel about when Riddler was a good guy for a short time?
That's kind of why I picked him for this week, since we did the episode on Villains Turned Heroes, and I don't honestly mind it that much. It's a fun idea that the Riddler would try to go straight for a while and open the detective agency kind of thing. I think it worked better in the Justice League Action episode. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I've seen it. That was a really good one.
Yeah, I think it worked better in the animated episode than it ever did in the comics, but there were moments in the comics I quite liked where Riddler and Batman are working on the same case.
Yeah,
and
so Sphinx.
Yeah, and so Riddler's just riding in the Batmobile with Batman at one point. He's like, it's nice to be in here and not be unconscious. And that was a cute moment. So that was good, and just I don't know, the whole the cartoon episode though was great because you got to see that he still couldn't
help himself.
Yeah, that was interesting. I quite liked that one. What do you think of the Riddler's origin, particularly with the breaking into school to solve the puzzle thing?
I like it because again, it plays into the whole OCD thing with him. Mm-hmm. That he cannot just help himself and leave something alone, which I've always I've always wondered why people don't go into that and kind of say you could make the argument that Riddler has a legit mental disability.
I think so. I think he has narcissism verging on obsessive compulsive disorder, and that's probably why. Or not, is it obsessive compulsive or should it be obsessive personality? I'm gonna go with compulsive. Yeah, but I think you can make an argument that he has narcissism and obsessive compulsive disorder, and that's probably what is getting him out of you know, the whole Blackgate death sentence kind of thing. I have such a hard time justifying the legality of these guys being locked up in Arkham and not Blackgate half the time. Like Joker, it makes perfect sense. Riddler, I'm so unsure about if there's any real justification for him being in Arkham.
Well, the whole obsessive compulsive disorder, you could almost make the argument that he fits in the autism spectrum.
That's fair. I think you could probably say that.
Yeah.
You could write. I don't know if there's a version of Riddler written that way, but I could see you writing a version of Riddler that way. That could function.
Yeah, like, it's not too far off, because, again, a lot of people who do suffer, who are on the spectrum, do have, that kind of obsessive compulsive and can still be fully functional,
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you could do that, and I just am talking more about the legality thing, because the whole not guilty by reason of insanity thing, the only reason that functions is if you can prove you don't understand the difference between right and wrong, and like Riddler clearly does. So I don't ever know how you could justify him being in Arkham. Like, Freeze clearly understands the difference between right and wrong, just doesn't care. But the reason he's in Arkham and not Blackgate is because Arkham has special facilities for housing him. But, like, Riddler doesn't have any of that, so I never really think I can buy Riddler being in Arkham as much as I can a bunch of the other characters.
But yeah, so I've always like I said, you could make that argument with the mental disability for Riddler, like, and make it work, like, especially with him. But I think even more so than any of the other Batman villains. I've always I enjoyed his time as a good guy, because again, I feel like a lot of, with a little work, and actually the Batman villains, a lot of them, I mean, a few excluded, mind you, a lot of them can work as good guys or anti-heroes if, you had the right elements to it. And Riddler being a good guy felt a lot like Sherlock, All you needed, I've always had this idea that if I could write for DC, I would have Riddler be a good guy, but have it that he is, he's working with, Renee Montoya, he needs someone to play off of and feel smart, too. He needs that kind of superiority. I
could see a Riddler and the Question team up, or Riddler versus the Question could be a cool one.
That was the thing.
Let's talk about that for a second.
That was actually in the Denny O'Neil run of Question.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. I've tried 6 times to read Denny O'Neil's Question. I could just never get past the 3rd issue. Anyway, let's talk about this. Because Riddler's... I mentioned Green Arrow, and there's a number of stories where Riddler takes on Green Arrow, and there are other stories where Riddler takes on other members of, other heroes in the DCU. Do you think he could do the Deathstroke?
Yeah, I think
Do you think he could make that transition and be a DCEU or DCU villain?
Yeah,
and not just a Batman villain?
Totally. I think he has that capability. I would love to see him go have this mental thing, this mental I don't know, game of chess with Mr. Terrific.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, and he was also right before the end of the New 52, there was a story with Riddler versus the Flash that was really cool, where he took over all these drones and had guns on them and had them pointed at just hundreds of people in Central City. And so it didn't matter how fast Barry could run, he can't be literally in 2 places at once. And the things were set up to trigger based on movements of hypersonic speeds. And it's just, that's so cool. Like, it just totally works. You could totally believe it. And then there's, like, a Green Arrow story where he had the whole city just... like, he had a nuke and he was, like, holding the whole city hostage. And the only reason he lost is because of some mystical bullshit that had nothing to do with anything Green Arrow was doing. Like, Star City was under the Riddler's thumb, and then just things went wrong that were completely out of anyone's control.
Damn you, contrivance!
Yeah, it was a cool one, and that was even before he got involved with the revamp of his character thing. That was a fun story because, like, he was leaving these clues and stuff in like online postings, and he was suspending elephants with giant balloons. And, like, I just remember Ollie and Connor having this whole conversation about looking at elephants floating above the city or above the streets in, like, basically giant weather balloons, and they're like just talking about how it actually looked like the elephants were enjoying themselves. It's a good story.
But yeah, I think, like, the best way you can beat Riddler is just give him someone to feel smart in front of. Like, if you could, like again, like, I think the whole hero thing could have worked if you gave him a partner like a Watson to his and make him, like, then he would have stayed a good guy because he would have had someone to lord over. You know, he would have.
That was a good point. Yeah, because it's weird, because while Riddler was on the up and up, Penguin was on the up and up too, and I think Paul Dini might have been trying to work around that area, because in those issues where Riddler was a private eye, there was a crossover where he was meeting up with Penguin, who had gone straight to just be a legitimate businessman again. You could have done that. You could have had Riddler and Penguin be a dynamic duo of sorts.
Yeah. Like, all...
That could have been interesting.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. Like, all he needed was, like, you could have him working with the GCPD, and, oh my god, have Riddler work with Bullock.
Oh, that'd have been cool. Yeah, that could have worked too. That's too bad. I prefer him as a villain, and I think at this point he's, especially with, like, Zero Year and War of Jokes and Riddles and continuity, he's done too much evil, and I do prefer him as a villain. But, you know, pre-52, yeah, a lot of that could have worked long term.
Yeah,
so it could have gone either way.
Well, that's my thing with Riddler is that all he really needed was just someone to feel smart around, and you could have avoided so much.
Yeah. Let's talk live action. Do you like Frank Gorish or Jim Carrey doing Frank Gorish Riddler?
I don't hate it, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for Batman Forever, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know. I never liked that approach. Again, it's just way too campy, and I don't need the Riddler to be that. Do you have, like... Who would you cast for live action Riddler?
Everyone keeps saying Johnny Depp for Riddler. I am not in that wheelhouse for Depp for Riddler. I've always kind of, like, for some reason I've wanted Colin Farrell to play Riddler.
I could see that. That's a cool idea. I kind of float between two choices. So my first one's Hugh Laurie.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, Hugh Laurie has been my choice for Riddler for a long time, and it's entirely because of the show House. He's played Sherlock Holmes. He could play Riddler. So Hugh Laurie's been my choice for a long time. But if they want a younger, sexier actor, Michael C. Hall, I think, would also be a great choice for the Riddler.
Oh, that'd be good too.
And that's a name I've seen thrown around a lot. I've seen Michael C. Hall and David Tennant thrown around a lot too.
It'd be good too, especially if you watch his, Kilgrave and Jessica Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think David Tennant's kind of gotten in the MCU at this point, so I doubt he'd cross over to any DC stuff.
His character's dead, so...
Yeah, but still.
But yeah.
So Michael C. Hall also seemed like a good choice for Riddler to me.
Yeah. I would say like Hugh Laurie would be cool as like a older haggard Joker, like to play with again the
Riddler.
Yeah. God damn it! I'm sorry it's late. God damn it! And we were talking about jokes and riddles. God damn it! To say him play Riddler would be cool. I think because an older haggard Riddler and kind of because I don't know if you played the Telltale game for Batman, which are really damn good, and they're goddamn, I almost did it again. Riddler is really cool in there. Like, just watch the cutscenes. He is terrifying. He is like he's just this imposing threat, and his intro is awesome. He just waltzes into a casino, gives a riddle, and he says, "I am death," and just guts this guy.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to recommendations. So I'm going to go with, again, the best story with the Riddler ever, Riddle Me That, and the prologue to it, Low. I kind of just consider it all one story, because parts of Riddle Me That really don't work unless you read Low. So that all is one. War of Jokes and Riddles, really, really good. And you know, mark your calendars, folks. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. I'll recommend Zero Year. I will recommend Zero Year. It is a well-written Riddler in that, if nothing else.
All right. I'm going to go with the Forever Evil issue, the Joker's Asylum issue, the Riddle of the Sphinx, and the Riddle Factory, which is a one-shot that was done in the 90s, I believe. And it's essentially Riddler making a game show that is televised of him doing this like cruel game show with all these like Gotham's underworld. And there's one point where he threatens to unmask a gimp on live TV. And it's kind of hinted that it's like the mayor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Deadpoolzilla, who are we going to be talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about Android 18.
Oh, all right. Sounds good. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I am the Don Juan of Comic-Con.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.